Ladies and gentlemen, we are back on the Boardman Black and Gold podcast. It's been a long off season, but the regular season is almost here. We were just talking about this before we went live that it's not even 2 weeks yet, and we're going to have some Steelers football that actually matters here in a couple of weeks. And me and David are pretty excited to talk about this most recent off season. I think last year we had a pretty great off-season episode. I think if you go back all the way to the beginning of our archives, you can go back and listen to that and all the optimism that we had. But even this year, it's like somehow it's even crazier than last off-season because I think that the Steelers just did a whole lot of stuff that we just never really expected them to do. And I think we're having this little mutual excitement around the team right now, which even a month ago, I don't know if I really had this type of excitement, but here we are, and me and David we're getting a little itch, we're getting that itching feeling.
Oh, we are, and it's good to be back. And the fact that football's back in like 2 weeks basically is just amazing, and it's getting me excited. And yeah, I mean, just seeing some of the new guys, like we have so much new talent, which was kind of part of the recurring theme from last year of having new talent, and I think that's just added a whole new level of excitement. I remember after the 2023 preseason when Kenny had a perfect preseason, and I was so excited and so pumped. I was like, that's it. Like, I'm never getting that excited again. Like, I'm scarred. But here we go. Last year with the excitement, this year with the excitement. I don't know, I don't know if you know what they do, but what do they do that like we somehow still get this excited and this pumped for the season?
Well, I think the big thing is they're going to go 9-6 or 10-7 every single year. And, it's like they're always in it. And I think that's the thing that they've desensitized us as Steelers fans is like they're never out of it, even when it's week 0. And, preseason is what it is. I personally don't watch preseason games for the fact that I don't want to get excited. That 3-0 preseason that you were talking about, I didn't watch any of that. And even still, I was excited because everybody else was excited. And it's like, oh, everybody else is excited, so I have to be excited too. But I don't watch preseason games because I don't want that false hope. And we know the Steelers can give us plenty of false hope. But I think that there are some positive things that the Steelers are tracking to, even as this offseason concludes. And, what we're going to try to do today is just kind of wrap up in a bow what we did this offseason. Because, I mean, even looking at it, the roster turnover from last year to this year is pretty drastic, I feel like. And it's going to be a very different looking team. And we're going to get each other's opinions on, how that's going to look different. If it's going to be so drastically different that we're wondering, like, is this even the Steelers that we were watching the last 5 years? Or is it going to be, something perhaps negative and it's like, oh, we have a completely different roster and yet we are going to do the exact same thing that we've done the last 5 years. So let's dive into this here. Obviously, behind center, we've got A-Rod, and, we've got our pretty strong opinions on him, but I think our opinions on Aaron Rodgers have gotten more positive as the offseason has gone along. Would you agree with that? Or, where do you kind of stand on Aaron Rodgers right now?
I think they've gotten more positive. I think that knowing this is his last year, he wants to make it the best he possibly can. And one thing that has been a stark contrast from his time in New York is like seeing him on the sideline during preseason games or like even during practice, like he is happy. Like I can't remember the last time I saw even his last year with the Packers. Like he just, looked like so annoyed and frustrated, and like he's cracking jokes with people on the sideline. He's smiling, having a good time. So I'm like, okay, like maybe like whatever this cloud that's been over him the past like 3 years, like whatever we got going on in Pittsburgh, he's lost it and he's just excited to play football again. And so that's made me more excited to see that he's actually happy in black and gold.
Yeah, that's great. And I guess the next question too is, what do you make of the rest of our quarterback room? Because Mason Rudolph did not have the best of preseasons per a lot of Steelers fans. Skylar Thompson, for some reason, just balled out in the preseason. And then Will Howard's kind of like, the odd duckling in this situation. So I mean, they're not going to keep four quarterbacks. So like, what are you making of this? Is Mason Rudolph perhaps on the chopping block here?
That is interesting because yeah, Mason Rudolph didn't do anything special. I think we know what we're getting with Mason Rudolph. I think that the Steelers having him been on our roster for such a long period of time, I think that they'll retain him. I think that it's so unfortunate that Howard got the injury that made him not play at all in the preseason. I was really looking forward to seeing him get some snaps, but he didn't. But I think that obviously, he's your rookie draft pick. You gotta keep him on. So I think Skylar Thompson will still end up, getting the short end of the stick. Even though, yeah, I mean, he was slinging it. I saw a few of his deep balls, specifically one that was like last night, right before the end of the half. I came in from a walk just in time. It was a basically perfect ball, like that was to Scotty Miller, that ended up setting up a field goal to tie it up right before half. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But I think we'll kind of stay with what we consistently do and just stick with Rudolph.
Okay. And then even in the wide receiver room, you mentioned Scotty Miller, and I saw some stuff this morning that kind of his night last night almost secured him a roster spot. And we weren't super high on bringing him back because it just kind of seems like he fits the same archetype as a lot of guys we already have. But as far as the wide receiver room, you've got DK, you've got Calvin Austin, which I was actually watching some Steelers highlights over the course of this week. I don't know what got into me, but I was on YouTube and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to watch some Steelers highlights. And it got me pretty excited, and specifically for Calvin Austin, because I think like there were some really cool flashes that he had this last season that give me the impression that he can be a productive wideout. And I'm just hoping that he can even take another step forward this year. But and I know you love him too. And that's kind of something like we're both rooting for this guy. What is his ceiling this year in the grand scheme of what this wide receiver room looks like even now?
Well, and that's a really interesting question because I saw an article, and just based off what I have been watching, it's been interesting to see how this preseason has played out because, like, I agree. I love Calvin Austin for a Steelers wide receiver. He had a good year last year with what that offense was. Like, he put up good, solid numbers for what our team was. But unfortunately, he's been struggling, I think, with an injury this preseason. So I don't know if he's played at all. And that has given Roman Wilson and Scotty Miller, who both fit his archetype, very like a lot of snaps. And specifically, like what you were saying, everyone's really impressed with Scotty Miller. And so the article I was reading was just kind of saying, like, trying to like basically prepare Steelers fans, like, don't be surprised if in the regular season, Scotty Miller and maybe Roman Wilson eat up a decent amount of Calvin Austin's snaps just because of how they played in the preseason, which, I think that we're in a bit of a hole because all these three guys fit the same like archetype. So it's like, okay, like we have our slot guy, we have three of them, and like our deep, small, like not tall guy, deep route guy. But then like who's this other guy that's gonna be on the outside? And there's one I think his name is Brandon Johnson. And he's also been a receiver that has impressed over the preseason. He was someone that like with all the injuries we brought up at the end of last year, then we cut him and now he's back. I don't know if he'll make the roster, but he could be someone on the outside. But I'm hoping that even though he didn't play in the preseason, Calvin Austin still gets a considerable amount of snaps and targets. But I think that based off how this preseason went, specifically Scotty Miller is going to get a lot of reps.
Interesting. And that's also coming with the fact that Roman Wilson has exactly one NFL snap under his name, and he has zero targets. And, a lot of people are really high on Roman Wilson this coming season. And it's interesting because it seems like the last 2 or 3 years or so, our early round draft picks have just not shown up in games. We had Troy Fautanu's injury last year. Roman Wilson had this weird fluke injury or something that kept him off the field. And we just never seen anything out of these guys. And, we're wondering, because even Calvin Austin was in a similar spot. He was a lower round draft pick, but we didn't see him at all his rookie year. And we're thinking, okay, like, what can we expect out of these guys? And is Roman Wilson truly going to be a wide receiver too that we're kind of maybe expecting him to be? Because I don't know, again, we've talked about it before, that I don't know if we can expect Calvin Austin to be a true number two, especially behind DK Metcalf right now, which, Metcalf, I think he'll have a decent year. And I hope that the connection that he has with A-Rod is a good one. Because, he's going to be here for another 4 years too. So that's something to keep in mind. But
Yeah.
last year we talked about how the wide receiver room was fairly weak as a unit. And, I just wonder, are we coming into 2025 with the same understanding that we're not really much better as a wide receiver unit?
Yeah. And that's really interesting because I think that I would say that the head has gotten better. Like, I think, last year it was like everybody else, like, I don't know what we're doing with our second and third and fourth, but we got George Pickens. And I didn't like George Pickens. And now I feel like it's almost similar of like, all these guys seem to be at the same level with whether it comes to the second, the third, the fourth slot in the depth chart, but we have DK Metcalf, and I think that like that substitution is a lot better. So I think that we will see better production and more consistency from that position, and it'll be interesting to see because maybe Calvin Austin will come back, and he did have a pretty decent year last year, and he'll be like fighting even harder because he's got to fight for this role, and maybe Scotty Miller will be a lot better and do what he's been doing in this preseason. So, yeah, I think that there's still not a lot that excites me within this wide receiver room. Like, I think a lot of it is just like hoping that they're going to be good.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't know if hope is a great thing to lean your hat on because, we have hope in places as Steelers fans, and I think we've hung on to hope for a very long time, and oftentimes that hope just doesn't quite pan out. Now, I do want to bounce something off of you, and I didn't prep you for this because I wanted to get your pretty raw reactions, but
Okay.
Terry McLaurin has requested a trade from Washington, and I've seen some mocks, and I wonder, what would it take to get Terry McLaurin, and is it worth it to give up like an actual asset, like an actual player plus a draft pick to get Terry McLaurin? And I have a specific idea, but before I give my idea, tell me what your initial thoughts are on that.
So, okay. I have heard that he wants out of Washington, which one blows my mind. Like the Washington's like in the midst of a meteoric rise. Like I don't understand why you want out of that situation. I don't know what's going on there. But then, that sounds so appealing because he's an amazing wide receiver. Him and DK Metcalf, um, like that would just be insane to see, especially with Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball to them. However, yeah, I would be fine, honestly, giving a pick to get him, especially if we're trying to go all in here. Like, I would be fine giving a pick. I'd be content with that. It would definitely depend on the player. Like, I don't know who I'd be willing to give up for Terry McLaurin. And I thought I saw something. Me and my dad have a friend. We call him Super Bowl Paul because my parents met him at Super Bowl 40, and he's been sending some articles. And I think one of them, I didn't read the whole thing, but I think one of them was Mike Tomlin basically just shutting this trade idea down. But I'm not sure. But what is your like little mock trade that like you could see happening?
So here's what I'll say, and I don't know if you'll like this, but the more that I look at it, I'm smashing this button without hesitation.
Okay.
I'm saying for Terry McLaurin, a second round pick, and Pat Freiermuth. I'm hitting that button immediately. I don't know if that's enough to get him, but if that's what it would take, and that's all it would take, I would do that in a heartbeat. Because now we have Jonnu Smith, we still have Darnell Washington, and we've probably got 15 other tight ends on the roster. not that Freiermuth isn't good, and I think he's good, but in the nature of trading, you have to trade something good to get something good. And I think we have a surplus of tight ends right now, and it would make a little bit of sense to me because Washington doesn't really have a long-term tight end. They've got Zach Ertz over there, and I mean he's old as dirt. I mean, I think he's 34, 35 years old, something around there. And they could use something like that plus the pick, and we could use Terry McLaurin, all things considered. So what do you think of that?
Whew, that's tough. So you said Freiermuth, and what was the pick?
A second round pick.
Second round pick. Okay, that. Ooh, I mean, it makes you a little uncomfortable, because I do love Freiermuth. I think that he's been great. Have we had? He's been around since 21.
He was the same year as Pickett, I think. Is that right? No. Was he the year before? No, he was Najee's year. He was Najee's year, I think.
Yeah, because he was with Ben's last season.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember them connecting a decent amount of times. You know what? Yeah, I'd probably smash that button too. Honestly, I think that yeah, with Johnny Smith now too, it's not like Freiermuth is. I mean, he's still young, but it's not like he's in his I don't know prime. And like let's be honest, he's a little injury prone. Um, and yeah, I mean, I probably still hit that button. I think that we'd be getting a lot more than what we would be giving. And even though, again, I love Freiermuth, it's not like he is, you know, Travis Kelsey out there putting up or Rob Gronkowski putting up these amazing numbers. Like he's putting up fine numbers. So I would be okay with this trade. And I mean, it's crazy. Like if that were to happen, like we already lost Fitzpatrick, which is just mind-boggling. Thinking that he's not going to be in the secondary. Losing Fryers will be interesting too, but I think it would be a worthy trade.
It's interesting you mention Minka because, in watching all these Steelers highlights, I saw his game-winning pick against the Rams several years ago. The one game where he single-handedly beat the Bengals in week 1. He blocked the extra point. He had the pick 6 for the first touchdown. I wonder what happened to that Minka Fitzpatrick because I mean, I'm just watching these highlights. I'm like, this is a completely different guy out there. And I have to imagine that it had to be something with the scheme because, I mean, there's no way that a guy falls off so hard. And even, I think it was Ian Eagle who was the broadcaster for that week 1 game where Minka just won it himself. But he says, as he's running it back for a touchdown, he says, Minka Fitzpatrick, the ball hawk. And we just never saw that again almost after that, which is crazy. And, now we've got Jalen Ramsey in the secondary. He's going to be playing more corner, but, we've got Deshaun Elliott back there, and I think that's a good substitute. But as things go, it's like that's going to be a little bit of a hole in my heart just not seeing Minka back there this year.
Oh, I mean, I completely agree. Like I have his jersey. It's like it's gonna feel like a missing piece for sure. And we've talked, especially throughout this past year, at length, I feel like, about like this mystery of Minka Fitzpatrick collapsing and where he went. And it is just sad to see what happened and like why he fell so hard. It'll be interesting to see. Like I don't see him doing anything in Miami because their secondary is in so much trouble, and like Jalen Ramsey wanted to get out of there so bad because of how bad the secondary was. So I don't know if that's the best situation for him, but I do hope the best for him. But yeah, getting Jalen Ramsey did get some snaps last night, and we got to see the full secondary that's going to be starting out there, which I thought was really cool. One thing that was interesting was that Corey Trice, I think in the first preseason game, got a little bit of a hamstring injury. And so, I mean, we barely saw him last year. He missed his whole preseason. He's not listed as in the starting lineup for the secondary. So I think that we may be just giving up on that experience. But it was interesting to see one thing. I did like seeing Jalen Ramsey back there. Like It was cool to see him. They moved him all over, and Charlie Batch said, he was one of the broadcasters. Like he just said, like they're gonna move him all over the place. Like he can fit any role, and they're gonna move him to any role. And so I really like that. Darius Slay looks good in the black and gold. One thing, there was one guy. He was number 21. His last name was Clark. I had no idea who he was.
Ryan Clark?
I wish. Um, but he was back there, and I noticed him a couple times, and Joey Porter Jr. a couple times. One thing that did concern me was that it doesn't appear now. I'm putting Jalen Ramsey aside because I'm not worried about this with him, especially because I saw this a couple times in the game. But it seemed like we were having a decent amount of trouble tackling. Like it seemed like the first cornerback that got there was not getting him. And that was just like a little like, okay, this isn't even the Panthers starting running back. It was Etienne, I think,
Hmm.
that was in. And like he was making some guys miss. Wide receivers make guys like miss the first tackle. So that was a little concerning to see the secondary not tackle super well. I will say though, there was a really fun, really cool play. Specifically that Clark guy missed a tackle, and what was it? Etienne was running on the outside. And do you remember like one of the times that I think Aaron Rodgers threw a pick? Or no, it was when Beanie Bishop picked it off and
Yeah.
almost took it in the end zone. How Devontae Adams like dove with his whole heart to do that. There was almost that exact same play, but it was Peyton Wilson like diving to make this tackle. And I was like, oh my gosh, like if I didn't love him already, I love him again. Like I just can't wait to see him on the field in a starting role. Because I think they announced him as one of the starting linebackers. So yeah, I'm nothing but excited for this defense. Besides the fact that our secondary looks like they need some tackling adjustments, but overall, I think I can't wait to finally see Watt on the field and Heyward on the field, and hopefully Harmon on the field sooner rather than later.
Yeah, let's dive into that. So, some big news that we haven't covered yet, the TJ Watt extension. He is the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history now. What do you think about that? Let's just talk about that for just a second. What do you think about the deal as far as the money goes? Is it a wise use of funds? Like, what do you think about it?
Um, I'm happy about it. I think that like if you're gonna put your money somewhere, like put it on the future Hall of Famer TJ Watt. And yeah, I mean honestly, in my mind it was like just give him whatever he wants to stay. Like I don't want to see him in any other jersey. And for me, hearing highest paid, like to me, that just goes out to the window. Every new deal is highest paid. Like it's like why do we even say that anymore? Like, it's like every time we're talking about a quarterback getting an extension, a wide receiver getting an extension, a safety, a quarterback, it's always like, oh, they're the highest paid this or the highest paid that. So it's like, it's not nothing new. So I'm totally happy about it. What do you think about it?
I'm in the same boat. I mean, I can't imagine seeing him in a different uniform, and for the same reason that it's like, let's win with these guys that we have. We've got some generational talents on defense, especially. Don't wish them away. Watt didn't have the best of finishes last season. I think honestly he was kind of a ghost out there. He didn't do much at all really towards the back half of the season, but is that something that you're going to bank on for a second straight year? No, I don't think so. I mean, again, he's just a couple of years removed from having one of the best edge rusher seasons of all time, in fact. And it's like, you can't wish that away. And that's not something that you should wish away. And I'm happy that they gave him the money. And even too, like, the the situation that we're in with our cap is not bad. I mean, for as high paid as our defense is, you have to understand too that like Aaron Rodgers is not making a whole lot of money. And if your highest paid player is a non-quarterback, then you might as well go out and pay your defense, which the Steelers defense is perennially one of the highest paid defenses in the league. And I don't know if it is indeed this year. I would imagine that it is because that pretty much hasn't changed over the last several seasons. But if you're only paying Aaron Rodgers like a little over $10 million a year, you're probably going to be looking to a rookie quarterback in these upcoming seasons. There's no reason not to expend your cap on your defense, especially in support of a young quarterback room. So I think that they're doing a nice job of using the money for assets that make sense at this juncture in time. Over time, sure, if you got a quarterback that you're going to have to pay a whole bunch of money to, then yeah, that's going to be a little bit different. But Watt's extension is for 3 years. you know, Hopefully by then we can start talking about a long-term extension for, the next franchise cornerstone at quarterback. And, by then, we'll readdress the TJ Watt situation and say, okay, is he still worth paying? Okay. If he is, then sure, let's go out and pay him again. And if he's not, then you let him walk and you let him go off into somewhere else. And hopefully by then you can say that you got a Super Bowl win under your belt. And, that's kind of the big picture goal with TJ Watt right now, is to make sure that he has some semblance of success, because as far as his career goes, he has had no success as a team. He's had plenty of personal success, but not as far as, team success goes.
Right. And I would love to just get a ring for him. And I was looking back at his stats even because, we were critical of him this past year of like, where the heck are you? Like, what do you do? Like, why is Watt like so quiet? And I was looking back and like he had 11 and a half sacks, which, having 10 or more sacks is never something to like sleep on because, yeah, that's a good year. And he had six forced fumbles, which I think was like where he made the most impact last year, was just forcing the fumbles. And like even like, yeah, what you said 2 years ago, it may have been the worst snub for defensive player of the year of all time. Like he had such a good season, and he's only ever had two seasons. It's just funny to think about that, under 10 sacks, which one was his rookie year, but he still had like seven, and then the other one was 22 when he tore his pec and was out for I don't know, like half a season or something. And so yeah, I think that like I really hope that he has like a return to form year and like just another year that's like, hey, he should win defensive player of the year.
Absolutely. Now, a little bit of weird drama that we kind of experienced in the last like 3 weeks or so was a holdout from Cam Heyward. And we actually, I don't know if you remember this, but he was doing the same thing last season. He didn't do much in OTAs. He didn't do much in preseason, but he came around. Now, this year, though, it seems like it kind of boiled over in a way, because, I mean, he even went on some podcasts. I mean, he has his own podcasts, and he's a very outward public talker. And he was not very happy with the contract stuff. And it kind of confuses me because, like, I don't know if it was that they wanted him to rework his contract again, but he signed an extension last year. So that money is already set in stone. So my question is, like, what was the whole reason for this squabbling? It was just kind of strange. And, it seems like it's okay now because he was participating, in the last couple of days or so, but even up until this week, it was a little bit of drama with Cam Heyward, and we're not really used to that.
Yeah, and I did see that like he's starting to participate in practices again. So I think that whatever it was has been handled. But yeah, this year it rubbed me the wrong way because like last year it was like oh no, like I really don't want him to go. Like just give him the money, and we did that, and we gave him the money, and we gave him the extension, and now it's like, not even a year goes by and you're already having issues with it. And like, I don't know, going about it, like talking about it on your own personal public podcast, like to me, that's just so unprofessional. And like just the whole way it went about, I was like, all right, like we already, like this is deja vu, like what you were saying, like we already did this. Like, like why are you doing this again? Are we just supposed to expect this every year? And so yeah, it really did annoy me and was just like I'm tired of this. But I obviously love him and want to see him retire in the black and gold. So, but again, I do think there is a point where it's like, okay, like let's be real. Yes, you're having the best years of your career right now, but you're also, I mean, how old is he? Like,
He's in his 30s. I mean, we know that.
30s. Like, you got a few years left. Like, just be real. Like, we're not gonna pay you what we're paying T.J. Watt, or, you know, a guy in his prime. So, but yeah, I'm glad that it's been handled already. But yeah, when it was still going on, I was very just kind of annoyed and just like, why are you doing this again?
Well, even the fact that it's Cam Heyward, because I feel like a lot of this offseason has been getting rid of all the drama. You know, we got rid of George Pickens. We got rid of Najee Harris with all the contract disputes that we were figuring with him. You know, we got rid of people. And I think it was for the fact that we wanted to have good heads on our shoulders coming into 2025 and really kind of reset, like a factory reset of the team psyche in a way. But if Cam Hayward's the one that's being very vocal about this, then again, like you, it rubbed me the wrong way because this guy's supposed to be the leader. We've talked about how TJ Watt is not really the best of leaders, but Cam Hayward fills in that void because he's an incredible leader. And if he's the type of guy that is continuously going on about contract stuff, you know, I don't like that. Like that's discouraging for me, especially for as long as it went on and for as close to the season as it went on, because I don't want to have to deal with that, especially if it's one of the main voices in your locker room that has a lot of say in things. That it really frustrated me. I'll be honest. It really, really, really did frustrate me.
Well, yeah, and I completely agree. And I look back to, like whatever happened to, like you always expect this from like the quarterback or the receiver and stuff. Whatever happened to like at the end of your career taking the pay cut to get the money other places, like Ben Roethlisberger, who we know, wasn't always the best at handling situations, and like he would be on radio shows like Cam Hayward was, and that would sometimes cause some drama, but he took pay cuts at the end of his career. Like he not in huge ways, but he wasn't like demanding this almost like what Tom Brady did, of like, I'm not gonna get paid the top dollar so that we can build around this team. And Ben Roethlisberger did that. And so it's like, I don't, as Cam Hayward, it's like, I don't know why you're not doing that. Like you don't, like Ben Roethlisberger and Tom Brady did that. Ben Roethlisberger already had 2 rings. Tom Brady had like 7, and they were doing that. Cam Hayward, you have 0. Like, don't you want to get a ring? And so I think about that, and like I think it goes back. I don't always mean to call out Mike Tomlin, but when you're the head coach, it does go back to you. Where it's like, yes, Mike Tomlin's a players coach, and he's very laissez-faire with his players, and it's like, you guys just like, I'm giving you a lot of freedom, and I think that like this is where it starts to get to the, like, yeah, too much freedom. Then when you have Cam Hayward doing this and T.J. Watt putting up the peace sign, and like your players just doing all these things and creating all the drama. We're trying to get rid of the drama. It's like, when you give this amount of freedom, it seems from what we've seen that the drama just gets filled by someone else on the team. So I don't know. It's just been frustrating to see that, but I'm glad that hopefully we're done with it and we can just play football.
I will say that I think that I understand things from Hayward's perspective on he has always been the guy to take the pay cuts. And at this stage of his career, it's like, I get it. You want that money. You want to finally have the 1 year where they do give you all the money that you were specifically owed. And it is a dispute over $5 million. But even, I think it was yesterday that I saw that the Bears' backup quarterback, Tyson Bagent, got a 2-year extension that was worth $5 million a year. I think it was. I think it was 2 years, $10 million. And I mean, Tyson Bagent, he's like crying over the fact that he got this contract. And by NFL standards, I mean, yeah, he's a backup quarterback, but he's like, again, he's crying over the fact that he got this $10 million contract over the course of 2 years. And the dispute, I think this season, was over $5 million for Cam Hayward's contract. So I get it that you want the money that you're owed, especially if it's the money that you negotiated after these disputes after last year. But at the same time, it's like, let's have a little bit of context here. is $5 million really in the grand scheme of things when you've made a whole lot of money over the course of your career? I mean, you've been blessed with a long career. He's been blessed without many years of injury. So he's been given a lot of the money that he's been owed over the course of his tenure. So it's like, kind of, again, like you said, do you want to win a Super Bowl? Because I think that's the goal here. We can build around you if you want to, but we're going to need some assets to be able to do so. Do you want to get Terry McLaurin to really shore up the offense? Well, that's going to take some money. If you want some help in your secondary this coming year, what if we need to make a deadline deal? The Steelers never make a trade deadline deal that really shakes things up. But what if this is the year that they finally break the mold in cases like that? If you want to do that, then you need some cap space to do so. So again, just the big picture, it makes more sense. I'll say, I guess the other way, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the big picture why this dispute went on for so long.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. And I think that, yeah, I mean, maybe he thinks that they already have all the talent they need to go and win, which, I think that, um, the coaching staff and the players, some of the players have had that blind optimism of like, we got what we need to go and win. Like, let's just go win. So maybe that is his um, viewpoint. But did you know? Because I know he's making practices and it seems to be settled. Did they give him the $5 million?
I don't know. I don't know what they did. I think they handled it internally, and I don't think there's been any public display of what they actually did. So I don't know, and I don't think I would venture to say that they didn't because I haven't seen any official word on that, and I feel like that's something that would probably come to light publicly, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that I wouldn't be mad or upset if we gave him $5 million, but it is back to your point of like, how badly do you want to win and like leave the door open to make a trade or make an opportunity to actually make us Super Bowl caliber?
Yeah. And I think we're close. Do I think we're there? No. And honestly, as far as like even making the playoffs this season, I think that's kind of in limbo. I mean, you got to look at our schedule, which we talked about it. We are going to re-record our schedule release episode because we have some different opinions, and we might even come out to the same records that we originally did. We might get it a different way, but I mean, if you look at our schedule this season, it is not a cupcake schedule by any means. I mean, we play some pretty darn good teams. Like you think about like the Lions and the Bills, like those are some juggernaut type of teams, and I mean, you would be pretty stupid to say that the Steelers are a juggernaut right now, despite what we have at our disposal talent-wise. But I mean, you can't say that about Pittsburgh right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it seems similar to last year of like the first half of the season, you're like, oh, like, okay, like we don't really play. I feel like the first half of the season, anybody that's like Bills Lions caliber team. And then, like you said, it's like Bills, Lions, Ravens twice. Like all of these teams. I feel like there's one other one I'm missing, but it's like, yeah, no, it amps up towards the end. And so it'll be interesting to see like how that plays out.
For sure. Last thing that we want to touch on, this is the day after the final preseason games. This is Friday morning. Last night, Derrick Harmon sustained a knee injury and he was carted off the field. He had a towel over his head. It seemed like things were pretty grim in that regard, but he was back on the sideline afterwards. I heard something that he actually walked to the sideline and he was all smiles. He was joking around with teammates, which was a good sign. And as far as things go, like I think we both saw the tweets about the fact that he was getting carted off, and we're thinking, what the heck? Like out of all the guys to get hurt, like this is not the guy we want to see getting hurt. Because I mean, we talked about it in our draft episode that he's such an easy guy to root for as far as his character goes. And I mean, there's a lot of people around the league saying that they wish that they would have taken Derrick Harmon in the first round as well. He kind of dropped down to the Steelers as a lot of mock drafts kind of predicted that he would. And a lot of people are saying that he might be the steal of this last draft. And if that's the case, then, having him slotted in right in the middle with Cam Heyward is going to be huge. And he could be a keystone piece to your interior defensive line for a long time. So as far as things go, it seems like he's going to be ready for the regular season. I don't know if I've seen an official report on that, but some optimism with Derrick Harmon. As far as his role on the defense, what do you expect out of him this season? Is he going to be a key contributor? Is it somebody that you're going to have to lean on this year? What's your outlook for Derrick Harmon?
Yeah, yeah, I think he's someone that we can definitely just root for. And it's interesting to see. I haven't heard that the league has been saying he's been like the steal of the draft. So that's really like cool because I've been hoping he would be good. And I think that the way that our organization has talked about him and the way that he's been playing and like Lord willing, this injury is just like a little hiccup and he's fine for week 1 or he's fine for week 2 even. I would like to see him in like a starter position, like lining up alongside Cam Heyward and maybe exchanging snaps between him, Heyward, and Keanu Benton, kind of going back and forth. But I would like to get him a lot of time because yeah, I mean, if he is as good as everyone is saying he is, and he seems like he is, like I want him on the field as much as possible.
And I think that the defense has a lot of good depth this coming season. I mean, your boy Jack Sawyer, he had a pretty darn good preseason. Having him kind of as almost a fourth edge rusher behind Watt, Highsmith, and Herbig, that's pretty amazing depth. And we've talked about it in years past how it seems like sometimes the defense is a little thin depth wise. And this year, it does not seem like that's going to be much of an issue. And even at cornerback, I mean, you got guys like Jalen Ramsey, Darius Slay, Beanie Bishop. We don't know what we're going to see out of Corey Trice, but JPJ's in there as well. Like we have a lot of depth on defense this year, which if you want to have a good defense, then depth is a key part of that. We got Preston Smith at the end of last year, and we kind of thought that that was a good depth piece. But as far as like the quality of his play goes, he had maybe one good week in that very first week that we saw him with against Washington, and then after that, we really didn't hear much from him the rest of the season. But this year, it's like a lot of young depth, especially that we kind of reinforced with this most recent draft. So as far as that goes with the team, I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that yeah, the depth, especially defensively, is great. Like even like thinking about linebackers too, it's like Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, Cole Holcomb's back and healthy. You have Malik Harrison, who I think is pretty decent, and then someone who I'm excited for, and I hope does well. I mean, I think he's going to be a special teams guy for the first couple of years, but. Carson Bruner, who was I think our 7th round pick, I have a lot of high hopes for him too. So I think that our defense as a whole and like the D line. I mean, yeah, our defense has so much depth, and we do pay our top guys top dollar, but it makes sense why they're the top paid if we have that much depth.
Absolutely.
Depth.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of the young talent is what's supplementing the depth as well. We talked about it. It's like we don't have a lot of practice squad guys that are filling this depth, which is kind of what we've been relying on the last couple of seasons. TJ Watt goes down, in that Baltimore game a couple of years ago. You don't have him available for the Bills game, and you're thinking, what are we going to do here? Now it's a little bit different. You've got some guys that are able to step up. Obviously, you've got a couple of years with Nick Herbig under his belt, and we like him a lot. We love his explosiveness. Alex Highsmith being back is great. I almost feel like he's kind of a trade candidate in a way. If there's a team that's super desperate for an edge rusher, and we have a need somewhere else, again, maybe even revisiting that Terry McLaurin deal. If you don't like Muth in that deal, what about Alex Highsmith? That's the type of thing that you have at your disposal when you have so much depth like this, is you can move assets to gain assets in weak spots. And that's kind of something that I think the Steelers have a real opportunity to do this season, which is, again, unprecedented as far as things go.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and it definitely excites me, and I'm just excited to see these players that we've had for the past couple of years come back together with this depth, with more support, and just see what happens.
as far as the coaching goes, we know what it is, and we'll see.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be plenty to say about the coaches once the season starts.
We won't say much of it now because we don't have any dirt on them yet. But if history repeats itself, which with the Steelers it more often than not does,
Yeah.
we'll have some dirt pretty soon. I feel like.
Oh, I completely agree.
All right. Well, I think that's it for our preseason episode. We kind of talked about what went on this last offseason. We have a little bit of optimism and, what's new? It's a Steelers offseason. There's always optimism at this time of year. And, we're going to come into week 1 here in a couple of weeks and go right at the Jets here. We are going to have a schedule release episode coming out very soon. But as for this episode of Boardman Black and Gold, it's sponsored by Zecca Enterprises, crafting furniture solutions in northwestern Pennsylvania. You can call 910-777-3871 to turn your furniture problems into furniture solutions. Keep an eye out for our next episode, which will be our re-recorded schedule release episode, and we will have our predictions, our official Boardman Black and Gold predictions for what the Steelers' record will be in the 2025 season. Thanks for listening to this episode of Boardman Black and Gold. We'll see you next time here on the Boardman Black and Gold podcast.